summer, there's a radio here.
I don't know, but I saw one.
She's a bit of an exhibitionist.
Oh, is she? All right. Oh, this one.
Actually, it's this one. Tiffany doesn't like it whatsoever. My lips are scared to say something.
No, I'd rather not. Not your favourite instrument, is it? Not at all, no.
Yes, I think so. Very pretty
I have been asked to say a few words. Can you hear me up there? And it's a great day. And it's funny that by accident of birth or marriage, we are all related in some way, except for two of us. Eric, a great friend, and Daphne, a great friend, who has another story to tell. But we all go back to Grandpapa William Hayes and his wife, Emma Mary. Emma Mary was a Moring, and she was a Huguenot. But they changed the name from Morin to Moring, as so many people did in those days. And so Grandpapa William and Emma Mary took themselves off to Egypt to just about 100 years ago, and Grandpapa, William, his business was making tools for medical doctors, scalpels and things like that. And he went to Egypt with his wife, and I think they had 3 children at that time. Yes, eventually there were 3 boys and 4 girls, and the youngest ones were born in Cairo, where they lived for many years. The girls went to a German school, and they didn't learn German very well. What my mother knew about German with any description. But they had a wonderful, happy time. And if you look at some of the pictures in the photograph albums there, they were enormously talented girls. They had wonderful facility for making fancy dresses and huge sort of hats and goodness knows what. And there was nothing that these girls couldn't turn their hands to. They were good cooks, and they were good players, and they played the piano, and they shamed me. I can't play the piano like they did. Anyway, they grew up, and Aunt Nellie, her name was Helen, but she was always called Nellie, and she was Glennis's mother and my mother. And she married young Hughie Jones, and Hughie Jones was in the bank, in the Ottoman Bank, which was a Turkish, French and English bank. And eventually, after they married in 1912, just before the First War, they went to live in Beirut for a little while. And in Beirut, there was James Elroy Flecker, who was the great poet. And he was a very naughty man, and he used to cause a great deal of fuss and bother about among all his friends. And he used to break the furniture, and goodness knows what he didn't do. They weren't friends of Granny and Grandpapa, but she used to tell me about them. And then they went to Damascus, and they were very, very happy there because it was a beautiful place. It was full of rivers and trees, and they loved it there. And then they were sent to Baghdad, and they liked it there too. And my mother used to say that they had wonderful parties. They had bridge parties in sort of round boats that they used to sail down the Bosphorus. The Euphrates. They used to sail down the river there with little lanterns in the boats, and they used to have their bridge parties, and when they got to wherever it was, I don't know who fished them out and sent them back again, but somebody did. But they had a wonderful time until war broke out, the Great War. And this time, Aunt Nellie, our mother, she was 6 months expecting her baby, and there was no way that she and the other women could go from Baghdad on horseback or on muleback right across the desert to Alexandria, to the Mediterranean, where they would be received by the Allies. And so, all these women and children, and Daphne was one of them, this little girl who shared this extraordinary experience, they had to stay behind. And the men went. My father was one of them. Only 2 men stayed behind with the group. And my father, or our father, was attached to General Allenby's staff, and he became part of the intelligence set up in the army in those days. And eventually he ended up in Salonika, where Compton Mackenzie was working also. And my mother, or our mother, sorry, Glennis, never heard from him all those years. And I think he knew a little bit about what was happening to her, but not much. And so there was silence all those years, and it needed a huge amount of courage for those women and those children to keep their pecker up, as the saying goes, but they did, and they were indomitable. And so Glennis was like 3 1/2, I think, before she saw her father. And she said, "Who's that man?" And her mother had to explain that he was the father, and I think she was pretty suspicious of it. Anyway, eventually they went to Cyprus, and it was there that I was born. And Glennis and my father had become chums by this time. And she was about 6 years old, actually, and said, "What shall we call the new baby?" And Glennis said, "Let's call her something Welsh," because our father was Welsh. And so they gave me the name Erwin, which nobody can say, and it gets translated into earwig. I am now known as Granny Eggwig by my grandchildren. They can't say my name properly. And so Glennis all this time was growing up And she became a boarder in Warwick School, King's High School for Girls, at a very young age. And she used to come home in the summer holidays all the way around by sea, by P&O boat from Tilbury, all round Gibraltar, all round Port Said, and then get put on another boat to come over to Cyprus. And this happened every year. And in the meantime, she used to spend time with her cousins. And here, so many of them are now. And we were very blessed as a family. We never had much money, but we had masses of love. And our grandpapa, William, and grandmama, Emma Mary, had come to live in Sussex, in a little house near Crawley. And this was an elastic sort of house, because all these kids used to come, and I don't know, there used to be 3 in a bed sometimes. And I remember Hilton, and Dennis, his brother, who unfortunately is not here, and John, where's John? Round the corner, there. John was in the middle, and I remember him in the morning saying, I can't get my arm down, because he was stuck there. And so we grew up, and we went our different ways. And Dennis got married, and she had a long and happy marriage to Pitts. She lived in South Africa, she learned to cook. She came back to England, she kept pigs, she kept chickens, she did everything. And she's a great artist, and a great seamstress, and a great mother, and a great grandmother. And today, we salute her, and wish her a happy birthday, and every happiness, because you deserve it, my love.
Yes.
To Glenys.
Happy birthday. Now, darling. They want to hear you down there.
Can you hear me over there? Down there? I'm not going to make a speech. All I'm going to say is thank you all very much indeed for coming and giving us all such a happy day. Your response to our invitation is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sorry that so many people weren't able to make the day. And Helen has no representative here, because Helen and I were very close. We were at school together for 8 years, sharing all the vagaries of boarding school. I'm afraid Helen was the bossy one. I was the quiet one. But in the end, quietness prevailed. And I'm afraid I sort of rather bullied Helen the last few years of school. But after that, we lost touch, a lot of us. We travelled around the world, all of us. We all had our grandparents' spirit of adventure. All of us lived abroad. We know what it's like living abroad, being separated from family and coming back. And I'd like to propose a toast to Granny and Grandpa Hills, and for future meetings for everybody, particularly the younger generation, because I think, again, as Aaron said, family is ultimate object in life. If somebody asked me what I'd like to pass on, I would say, keep an inquiring mind, whatever age you are. God bless you all.
Yes.
Jay. It's been an excellent day. That's a nice shot.
I hope he's got the
It's a lovely shot. Fantastic. Out to zone 3. And I haven't seen this lady since my girls were this down here were this high. No, they weren't that short. That's a fact, isn't it? Yes. She's got more grey hair than I have.